You've been in the holdfast of Bjornsholm for just under a week. You've arrived here and have been doing your best to rest as people start to sort of arrive here in dribs and drabs. The various thanes of the area, like arriving with their household warriors and their advisors and things like that. The idea is that they will all meet here with the Jarl and then head north to the meeting place to speak with Uthil Kohlbrandr and discuss what's to be done. That is how the Jarl is phrasing it and how most of the people in the region are phrasing it, to discuss. But your instinct is really that it's going to be a one-way discussion. So yeah, over this week you've been resting here and you've seen various leaders from the province of Ingvik kind of arrive in dribs and drabs. Thane Ranulfsson from the neighboring province arrives first. He's the one whose son tried to run for Jarl of Ingvik, if you'll remember. And he expects to be treated in the way that his station would generally be treated. But there's nothing in Bjornsholm. There's some warriors standing. There's some scouts not far on horseback, always watching, and sort of scant meat, dried fish, hard cheese, and that kind of thing. What have you been doing over this week? Have you discussed anything? How do you feel?
I think there have been many hushed and tense discussions, terse words, as we try and figure out our best strategy. We know what the others do not. We know of Ogvai and his crew, who are scheduled to meet us here in Bjornsholm any day now. And trying to figure out our plan, and we have paid him. He is sworn to follow through on his oath. But is that the best course of action?
Vagnar's been wandering around the encampments or where they are, and he's going to have been keeping his ear down to the ground, generally getting an idea of the mood and feelings and atmosphere, how the men are doing, basically, like how they're feeling about this situation.
So you can easily read your crew, what remains of them now that you've excised the pirates who are with you. Those who have been with you for a long time, you sense nervousness in being home, but not home. So they haven't gone back to Ingvik yet. They have been in Bjornsholm, and they have like family members they want to see. They have, things they want to get to, but they're still stuck here in Bjornsholm. And there's a great nervousness about the impending meeting with Uthil. When the Thane arrives of Thane Ranulfsson, he too seems standoffish, and his men would kind of talk drunkenly over some of the nights about how they're worried about the future of this province and what it means for the Jarl that he's going to meet with the legendary and frightening Uthil. So you would sense nervousness. It would be the overwhelming feeling. Later that day, basically, the other Thanes would arrive. Thane Stribbjorn, who's from the very, very southern part of this Jarldom. His mail a bit brighter, a bit shinier, and his men have scoured their gear to make it look a little bit more impressive. They arrive. They're probably the safest and suffer the least from raids in this province. But they have been called here, the same as all the others, and they would arrive and expect similar treatment to Thane Ranulfsson. And it starts to get crowded pretty quickly in Bjornsholm. It's not a village, it's a tower, barely a castle. And so you have to set up tents outside, you have to set up or the latrines and things that you've dug are not really cutting it anymore. So there's like lots of menial tasks to be done to make room for so many people at this sort of small watchtower. The other thing that arrives is Thane Wiglaf Mogerson. He's from the coast, sort of south of Ingvik. And he too arrives. They're all richer than you, is what you would notice as they arrive. They all seem to appear with like fairly decent mail and like fine weapons, and you get the impression that there's more wealth in those lands than in Ingvik, which has struggled basically through your whole time here. And last to arrive would be the Jarl himself, Jarl Hjor Gudmundsson. He would arrive with 70 household warriors, which is pretty impressive. It's probably for some of you, probably the most warriors you've seen in one place. But he looks haunted and nervous. He looks sort of thin and gaunt, and like he's given up before he's even started. He'll make a show of like arriving big and like having things brought out for him and like eating with the bread and the salt and the greetings and things like that. But I think you would notice, all of you who are quite perceptive, that he doesn't seem to be as confident as he's putting on.
I think Scom's fever broke just the last night, and he's come like still swaddled in bloody wool and drenched in like fever sweat amongst like the cloistered camp to find Vagnar on an evening, perhaps when some more of the troops have like moved in from the south. And he's looking at them like weighing up their number and demeanor, and they look fearful. And it may be like framed by some of these like dour or morose men like milling about in the burgeoning camp, move towards Vagnar and say, there'll likely be a great slaughter here. And voice still like rattling with a bit of like phlegm from the sickness. His wounds like stinking to you, but not enough for him to perish. What will you do?
Look at all these people here. There isn't one of them that I would call one of my people. But if any headway is to be made with the initial plan, the men on our side will need someone to look to. We need to provide a figurehead, a leader, as much as I'm loath to admit it. That dumb bitch, the house girl, has the most legal position to take that title. We present Uthil with leadership, and he gives you a meaningful look.
Everyone here serves Gudmundsson, and he's sue for peace. Give Uthil his terms, I think. And they'll be harsh, knowing your people, he says.
Ragnar smiles. They will be. What do you make of this position yourself, Scone?
I'm a free man now.
Aye. As am I.
I have many choices, he says.
Yes, you do.
So do you now. Phelim gave you your freedom. Not an oath breaker in Asblot.
Aye. It'd be better to run, to retreat.
No gods love a coward.
None
But I
of the
think you're
fucking-
right.
None of the fucking gods love me anyway. All they do is shit on me.
He like laughs a bit at that, but then there's a bit of like bloody phlegm, like let's like spit it into the fire and probably like kick a log into it, like flare it up again for a bit of warmth.
Get your rest. Looks like we'll have a long journey ahead. Vagnar's he's gonna go and find either Kval or Gorm, and he's gonna whisper to them to collect a number of provisions and things like that, and supplies.
Gorm just nods, but Carl raises an eyebrow. He looks at Gorm, who's like nodding. Like Gorm gets it, Kvarl doesn't. And he's like, oh, we need those provisions for the Thanes and the Jarl, Ragnar.
When did you start giving a shit about all this?
Gorm like elbows him in the ribs, and Kvarl looks at him like, what?
There'll be plenty of drink, there'll be plenty of meat where we're going. That's all we've been interested in thus far. That and the odd cheap whore.
He's about to say something, and Gorm again just like elbows him, come on. And he nods and goes with him. And you'll see them kind of like, you'll see Kvarl like going to like some supplies while Gorm stands nearby and is like, like making distractions so people won't see Kvarl like dragging bits away.
Yeah, Ragnar just watches him do that and thinks to himself, I hope I don't have to kill him.
Inside the tower, it's warm. There's a fire roaring. The roof has been thatched and a hole punched in for the smoke to escape. And in behind, like there's a tent set up inside the tower for extra warmth. And inside that tent sits the Jarl, and Echo Wildeye, who is the Jarl's champion. And he's called for you, Sigrid, and you're sitting opposite him in this tent. And he leans forward. So, Sigrid, how was your journey? It looks unsuccessful.
She slowly would nod her head. It was not as fruitful as I had hoped.
I see.
It is not good to speak of the dead, but Phelim was a good man, but I fear he was not the best leader. He was too soft, and it cost us. And it cost him. And she would kind of have that vivid memory of him just getting butchered on the deck of the Red Dragon. And he would see like a visible shudder from her as she relives it. But he was a good man.
I'm starting to realize. He leans back and like takes a sip of his mead. I'm starting to realize, Sigrid, that this is not a place for soft men. It's not a place for just men. It's a place for men with no scruples, who will do what they have to do to win, who will do what they have to do to survive. You are my sworn warrior, Sigrid, and I am nervous about what's to come. I think Uthil will be brutal. His terms will be difficult to accept, but what can I do? If I say no, already every village in Ingvik has been scoured of people. He's left blood eagles everywhere that he's gone. What can I do? We have to accept it.
So I'm wondering, so he has no idea yet about Ogvai and the bastards. I'm trying to think. So Sigrid wouldn't necessarily name that, but I think what she would say would be, It doesn't have to be that way, Jarl. There are some among Phelim's crew that are very, and she pauses, she says, choosing her words wisely, effective at doing things that must be done. I have not spoken with them of late, but if I know them, they are not sitting idly.
Even
Perhaps you
if
can
they
still
are,
use them.
even if they are mighty, we know that Uthil has a powerful witch. He has a giant with him. He has many crews of hardened warriors and killers. I have brought my household guard, as many that I could muster, although of those 70, he like leans in, they're not all warriors. Just because you put a man in mail doesn't make him a warrior.
She would frown at that. So we are done then. We'll bend over and take what he will give us. What little it might be.
What else can we do? If we fight, we will die in great numbers, and then it will be worse for everyone who lives in this Jarldom.
We are left with little choices then, Jarl.
What would you do if you were me? If you were Gudmundsson, and you had these men at your command, and these thanes who serve you? You have this paltry army, less than 200. Would you stand against Uthil Kohlbrandr?
My heart says no. But my body says yes. Cannot give in so easily to this pig. We give to him now, he'll just keep taking. There's nothing to say that we will have the strength later to stand against him. Is it not better to be sitting on the side of Odin than living in the dirt like a pig?
It's easy to say that it's good to sit at the side of Odin, but if he kills me, what of my family and all of the people who live in this Jarldom who are defenseless and who cannot stand against him? Certainly I could sit at the side of Odin, but then what of my wife and of my children?
Yeah, those words kind of strike her hard, and it makes her think of her own family, the one she had left behind when the Jarl sent her as Huskarl to the Carl. And she remembers that, and she gets that pang of regret and loneliness. She thinks of her children, and she nods her head. You are wise, Jarl. It's true. Sometimes it is better to pray for peace, and maybe if the gods favor us later on, we will have the strength that we need if we do not sit idly by. But I agree, we do not have the strength now.
He nods slowly. You can see Ekel Wildeye, who's like this Gunlander swordsman, who's the Jarl's champion. He's just been like chewing loudly on this like chunk of bread, like watching you and watching the Jarl. You can tell that there's like a great distaste for like this snivelry is what he sees. He wants to die gloriously fighting Uthil Kohlbrandr. You can like tell that of him. He just like chews, but says nothing. That you can sense that warrior spirit from him.
Sigrid, picking up on that, would say, I know. We have to think of the others. The Jarl is right. They will be butchered, taken as thralls, the women raped. That is no life.
No man who bent over and took a fucking sits at the side of the Allfather, he says. And then he like picks up his meat horn and leaves the table. The Jarl like looks annoyed, but then looks to you. I do not feel wise. I feel cautious. I feel cowardly. But I think it's our only option.
That is wisdom, Jarl. Is not the Allfather the god of wisdom?
But also the god of war and god of death.
A wise warrior does not rush in blindly to death. He plans for it.
He just kind of like nods slowly and takes a deep drink of the mead. There have been several men who have approached you, Sigverker, as you like tell them a story of some of the battles that you fought, and they're sitting kind of like wrapped with attention. Though one of them will ask, "You're a berserker. You're a chosen warrior. Is it true that you don't feel fear?"
Oh, I feel fear. Just maybe not in the same way you might.
They say that once, when Gunnar was king, that his whole army was stopped by one berserker trying to cross a bridge.
Well, imagine the fear of one man against many. I imagine that man could take that fear and channel it back upon those that wish to do him harm. That's what happened that day, I believe.
What do you think will happen on the day that we meet Uthil? Do you think our Jarl will channel that fear?
I did not think he possesses the capabilities in order to do so.
There's like some glum nods from the men around them. One of them says, "Tell us again how you smashed that guy's head into the side of the boat."
Come here and I'll show you.
So the time passes. Visla, you have been introduced to Phelim's wife, who is now ostensibly the Thane of Ingvik. Your impression so far is that she is absolutely unprepared for this responsibility. She looks terrified, and when she discovered that this was the case, the first thing she said to you was, "My children, you have to take them away."
I do not know if I have that power.
If they stay here, he will take them. He will take them from me.
He will take you, most likely. You must prepare yourself for that. Perhaps them as well. I will do what I can for the children, but if he knows of them, he would demand every last drop of Phelim's blood, no matter how diluted in a child.
That's why you have to take them away. They cannot be here.
You know your fate.
Please. You cannot doom them to that fate. He'll take them from me, and they'll live as thralls up in wherever hole he lives.
I had thought to go with you. But if you would rather me take the children, I will see them safely south.
Yes. Yes. It must be. I can take whatever misery is heaped upon me, but I cannot see it happen to them.
I pray that you are as strong as you think you are, Thorin. It will not be easy on you.
No. And she'll like gesture over for Phelim's children. There's a boy, maybe 14, and then a younger sister and a little girl. And she'll introduce you to them. And she'll say, you have to go with Wisla now. And they begin to like squirm. The little one definitely begins to squirm and like hides behind Thorin's skirts. But she like pushes them towards you. Take them, go.
Speak of this to no one. If Uthil finds that we have fled, he will hunt them. We will go west. We will go east. We will go north. We will go south.
The boy doesn't want to go, and he like says as much to his mother. I can stay. I cannot let you. No, I'll stay. And she's like pushing him. Go. You have to go.
You are Phelim. You are your father's son. Come with me. I will tell you the stories of your father, that you will never forget him.
There's like a tearful goodbye. He hugs and kisses his mother, and then his younger sister, and then the little girl is just inconsolable. She's like screaming, crying, as like you have to like literally pull her away. And you can take them, and you'll leave Thorin standing with tears in her eyes.
Yeah, Wisla would put together a tea of some sort for the littlest one to ease her into a rather drugged sleep, but to ease her into it all the same. And she would, with arms heavy with this dead weight of sleeping child, make for the Red Dragon, perhaps as dusk falls, hoping that without the screaming of the youngest, they'll go mostly unnoticed amid the dozens, hundreds of men that are all gathered in the horses. And
yeah, there's a lot of activity. You'll notice as you come onto the Red Dragon that there's supplies here, as if a journey is being prepared. Though you won't, like you don't really know how that's happened, but there's like at least a barrel of salted fish and some water and stuff that's been stocked here. So yeah. And you can like bring them into like the small tent at the back of the Red Dragon and hide them there.
Wisla would get them secreted away, and then look for probably Vagnar. She assumes he is fleeing.
He won't be that far away from the ship.
Vagnar.
What is it?
I noticed there are provisions aboard the Dragon.
Would Vagnar have seen you bring the children on board?
If he's watching, probably.
Looks like you're stocking the ship yourself.
It does not sit well with me. But it would be worse to condemn those children. Thorin has asked it. And for Phelim's memory, I will abide it.
And you'll accompany them?
I would not entrust them to you.
Phelim was the only one I had anything sworn to. It fits that his blood would be where that honor passes to. And he gives a sarcastic smile at you.
You might be impressed at the spine on the oldest son. He is Phelim the Younger. He has his father's bearing.
Not for long, he won't. He'll have that taken from him. People know who he is. He's a danger to all of us. Make yourself useful. Come up with a new name.
You're right. Their names, they are Tan. The youngest is Quiva.
If those names are a dead giveaway, you would know immediately like that is not a person from Iscloft. It's definitely a person from the Tuathan lands. Like nobody has those names here, so that's definitely worth considering.
Okay.
Yeah, she'll just kind of like chew her lip a little and go, "It is wise counsel, Vagnar. Something to be done aboard the ship."
We'll have a long journey, but we need a crew, 20 at least. You will speak with Sigrid. You'll have it arranged.
Sigrid is sworn to the Jarl. She will not leave.
Oh, no. She's definitely not leaving.
It's getting to the point now where like night is falling, and in the morning there will be the march north to that spit of land and sand where there's an ancient stone where the meeting is to take place. So as night falls, is there anything you'd like to do?
I think Vagnar actually, having noticed Scom's wounds from before, would direct Hvisla to go and check him out, potentially. Because he saw how bad they were and they're healing, but they still stank,
There's a shadow as Hvisla comes between Scom and the fire. You are still injured.
He wakes with a fright from the delirium, and then his eyes grow wide as he realizes Wiesler looming over him. Stifles a wet cough and groans as he turns, trying to rise.
Peace. I will aid you, if you need it, and if you will let me. I see the fear in your eyes. I know many of Ingvik do not trust a witch.
He doesn't say anything, but kind of just exposes his shoulder where the wounds are, and recoils a little before your ministrations.
Yeah, she'd set about her work. It's more mundane than you might expect, although her hands are colder than they ought to be. And she'll see that the wound is properly cleaned and bandaged, and tut a little, and she'll have to cut away some of the rotting flesh. And she'd give you this bit of leather. Hold this in your mouth. Do not swallow your tongue. And then with the sharp edge of the dagger, begin cutting away the hanging clumps of rotten skin and flesh from the wounds before binding them back up.
I think Scom would wince and grimace against the pain, but still not speak, grinding on the leather mouthpiece as the wounds are seen to, and all the while is just barely bridled fear welling up inside him. And once the most painful parts of the procedure are done, thank you.
We are leaving. Soon. Ragnar has the ship almost ready.
Scom gives a knowing nod.
There's a tilt to the side of her head, and she goes, "You are wise beyond your years. I had not anticipated your hand in that. Excellent."
We'll need the bone cloak too. He rattles through the wheeze. And what of the widow?
Of Phelim's wife.
He nods.
She goes north with Gudmundsson.
At that, Scom would return to silence.
She is ill-prepared, but no fool. She knows her fate.
I'm ready to leave now, he says. I'll gather my things and await the word.
So Havisla, when you approach Sigverka, you'll find him talking, still regaling various crew members, not only of your crew, but also some of the soldiers from the various Carldoms who are fascinated to see a real life berserker, and the bone cloak that he bears, and the strange way that he talks, and the way that his stories have a sort of lyric to them, and you'll see them all enraptured as he tells a tale in front of the fire.
Visla sees this, and she knows her presence makes most of the men uncomfortable. So she would simply go up to Sigverker, not quite putting a hand on his shoulder, and whisper to him of the plan and of the need for a crew, and then just keep walking and leave him to his speeches. And Visla will head towards Arnvid at some point.
I reckon Sigverka doesn't even stop telling the story. He continues talking as he listens. Although you'll see as you pass, Havisla, many of the men grab at their crotches or at their Thor's hammer amulets, or they'll spit onto the ground to ward away your evil.
She doesn't bat an eye. It is nothing new.
One of the men says, "Berserker, why did you associate with a witch?"
How do you mean?
That witch, she put a hand on you. She whispered in your ear. Was it a spell, a curse?
It was a greeting from one friend to another. She never did me any ill will. Has she done so to you? I doubt it.
No, but it's not natural. You can see he's gripping his Mjolnir amulet.
And yet, there she goes, in front of your eyes. The gods placed her on these lands. Seems natural enough to me, no?
But a skag killed the king. They can't be trusted.
One skag killed the king. Others have saved sickly cattle so that farmers may thrive for another season. Others have found lost children lost in the Feywoods.
You can see he wants to argue, but then he kind of assumes that if a berserker says it, it must be true. And so he kind of like nods slowly and will like let go of the amulet that he's holding. Havisa, you would find Arnvid inside the tower. He's like sitting with his head in his hands, like rubbing at his temples.
Arnvid.
Visla. Sit.
Thank you. You will go north tomorrow, yes?
Yes, it's my duty.
I will not.
What?
I have other duties.
What are you talking about? No, you have to. We all have to.
I will stay. I will watch you go. But she like reaches for his hand and pulls it to her stomach. There's more.
His eyes like widen. Mine?
Aye.
He like takes out his amulet and like kisses it. Great, good, great. We'll be married.
Perhaps.
If you have me.
Arnvid. My fate is not here.
What are you talking about? You're carrying my child. Of course it is.
If I stay, do you not think Uthil will want all who sailed with Phelim?
Then I'll come with you.
In a year's time, I will meet you here.
He shakes his head. No, no. I have to make sure that you're safe, that my child is safe. Talking about.
You know I can take care of myself. I have kept safe these months. I will keep safe 12 more.
But it's my child.
And
No,
if it is a son, he will bear your name.
I have to come with you. What are you talking about? I can't stay here. I go where you go.
Arnvid, we have not made those oaths to each other.
No, but I make them now. You're carrying my child. What is there to discuss? I'm not the kind of man who sires bastards. I don't want him or her to grow up without a father. That's insane.
A child of a Sather will never have a normal life, Arnvid.
I can't let you go. I have to go with you. I cannot. Fuck's sake. And he just like takes this and just like downs his. No, I'm coming with you. That's all there is to it.
And what of your duty?
My duty is to my family, to my child. I was sworn to Carl Phelim, and now he is dead.
Would you slink away like a dog in the night?
Would you? You, a priestess of Odin? If you're doing it to keep the child safe, then of course I will.
I will come for you. Tonight.
If you do not, I will tell them.
I will come for you.
He nods.
Isla will stand perhaps awkwardly and say that. Make your preparations.
He nods, and he'll stand as well. And he'll like clasp your hand for a moment. You'll come for me.
I'll come for you.
And he'll go. So between Quarrel and Gorm, they've kind of mentioned some of the more loyal members of the crew. And Gorm would arrive to you, Wagner. He'll like lean up against the wall outside where you're standing, and he'll like look in a different direction. He's trying to be subtle, and he'll say, 11 so far.
Fuck. The stress is obviously getting to Wagner. Is it just Gorm?
Just Gorm, yeah.
Where's Kvar?
He's trying to get more.
Keep an eye on him. He is our brother, and we must watch over him.
Yeah.
Who have you yet to ask?
He'll rattle off a couple of names from the crew who like might have been more leaning towards like the duty side as opposed to the live side. He also says, my impression is that there's some of the men from the other Carldoms who don't want to go to that meeting tomorrow.
Is that so?
So it seems.
I suppose it would be asking too much to have a whole crew that we can trust.
You could fit 50 men into the 60 probably, into the Red Dragon. There's no way we'll get that many.
I'll find Scum. He seems to have a mind for these sorts of things. We will deliver the message together. Continue what you've been doing, and remember to keep an eye on our dear brother.
He nods and slinks back into the darkness.
Vagnar's going to go fight Scum.
I've packed my provisions and scavenged what I can from the camp, he says, when you find each other.
We'll have some extra passengers on board.
Enough extra passengers?
Not the rowing kind.
He'll point through like the row of tents to where there's the fire that Sigverk is sitting there talking to a bunch of young men filled with wanderlust from his tales. Perhaps if people were to hear the right tales, they'd be inclined to come and pull an oar on the Red Dragon. Pointing to Sigverk and then looking back to you. If not, Arnvin's men seemed dour when we arrived at Bjornsholm. Like the man himself, perhaps they could be persuaded from their fate of travelling north. They'll not listen to you or I, though.
We'll speak with the teller of tales first if we have his silver tongue on board. Like you say, it'll be useful. Let us see what he's regaling the men with.
You go, he says. I've one more thing to attend to. I'll meet you back at the Red Dragon.
Make it fast.
He nods.
Vagnar loops around and begins sort of like skirting around Sigverka, trying to get like the most apt angle to approach the giant man. And he sort of waits watching him for a bit, and he's going to see what he's up to.
Yeah, as you approach, you actually see him move off from the men a little bit as he goes to fetch something to drink to ease his parched throat.
Must be thirsty work. Or talking.
It can be, but you usually find people are more than happy to keep that first slate.
What's your opinion on the situation round here?
He looks at the boat and then back to you.
We need strong
Shakes his
arms.
head a bit.
And a voice to gather more arms. And he just gives him a look in the eye, like a knowing look, and then looks at the boat again.
Yeah, so Verker follows your gaze and then looks back to the men he's just been regaling with tales. Scratches at a knotted dreadlock. Sometimes when you speak to a man's heart, he hears you more.
Speak to the point. We need you. Will you come?
Sorry, Rob, I missed that. You broke up from you there.
No worries, man. He says, speak to the point. We need you. Will you come? There will be
Of
plenty
course.
of finger bones upon the open sea, I'm sure.
Oh, there's a story to be told yet. I would not miss it for the world.
This discussion with Uthil about how best this land can bend over. Not really one for the ages, I wouldn't think.
No, it's barely a beginning. of something greater.
We make ready as soon as possible. If you have business here, as you say, you should attend to it now. I would appreciate your words when it comes to convincing some of the others around here. We need 20, but we could do with more. It's a dangerous journey, but less dangerous than going north.
I will certainly do what I can.
Ragnar's going to go off to find Arnvid's men, but we can come back to him.
Sure. Scum, you're looking for Thorin. You'll find her sitting alone in front of one of the fires, like outside of a tent. She's got this like Sayax blade across her lap. She's kind of just like turning it over and like looking at the fire, glinting in it.
Lady, he'll rasp as he approaches the fire and stands still.
Do I know you?
I served your late husband, Carl Phelan.
I see. Sit.
He'll take a log long ways and like sit upon it in the warmth of the fire nearby to her.
As you get a little closer, you can see that her eyes are like red and puffy from tears.
You share his bravery, if I'm so bold to say.
The gods admire courage.
And you are admirable, he says. Your husband taught me the war-wise ways. Did not see me as what many others in Ingvik did. I am a great deal, the way I reckon it. So I'll share in Vizsla's oath to you.
She looks up. You'll protect them.
I will, he says.
You'll see that he grows strong.
He nods at that.
You'll find good husbands for the girls.
I will, he says, a little more like less uncertain than the first time at that. But yes, of course, he says.
They are not thralls. They are not salt wives. And she has this like fiery
Only
look
if
in her
they
eyes.
stay here. Yeah, only if they stay here, he agrees.
Good.
Do you know how to use that thing?
Ish.
I wouldn't wager on ish, he says, like grimly but like warmly as well. He'll move to his belt pouch and pull like a slim blade out, like an old one, bleached bone handle, and like almost like fish thin blade. And if there's a guard near her, they'd probably be worried, but he's not going to murder her. And he'll just hand it to her handle first. This was the only thing given to me by my stepfather, but it's always been the needful thing. You might need it where you're going.
I might. She like looks it up and down. She leans forward and she whispers, I don't know if I want to go tomorrow. But I know that Take my old life, won't get me to Valhall.
If you flee, he'll hunt you through the realms. For the sake of your children, you must go north.
Yes. She nods slowly. You'll see that they grow up strong.
Yeah, he'll nod.
She'll look back into the fire and like hold the blade, and you'll see her like turn it almost as if she's going to put it into her chest for a moment, and then puts it back down into her lap, where it like clangs against the sayaks and they like thunk onto the ground. A couple of guards will like turn to look, and she'll like stand from it and turn away.
Scom never lingers, so he'll traipse away after like a respectful bow to her at that, too uncomfortable in the silence and looming grief with the woman, and like feeling a little stung at the barbs of oaths as he got more than he expected from that. But that's awesome, and he'll move back away to like grab that knapsack and go to the docks where Wagner had. Where he'd sworn to meet with Wagner.
So, Sigrid, you've been sitting inside this hall. Maybe you've had a little bit to drink, and you're with the quality. You know, you're with the Carls and the Jarl and their sort of household warriors. As a Huskarl yourself, it's the sort of rank that you have been given, and so you can enjoy the warmth of inside the tower. And there's even like a singer singing. And the Karl Ranulfsson will sit opposite you. It was his son that wanted to be Karl of Ingvik. He leans forward. Seems to me that this place, this Ingvik, is more trouble than it's worth, eh? This frontier place, scratching a living. Why does Uthil want it?
She would level stare at him, and she would sort of shrug, not really wanting to agree with him, then not really wanting to guess at what Uthil would want. She herself can't see why so many would want to die for this. It's not even good farming land. Maybe you could raise some sheep, but even then, couldn't raise many. She's thinking that as she just kind of slowly, she shrugs and lifts up her horn and takes a drink. She does it so that she doesn't have to say anything to him.
You served with the late Karl, no? What kind of man was he? You know, my son was almost Karl of this place.
She chooses her words wisely. He was a very good man. I am honored to have served with him.
And what now? You'll return to serve Jarl Gudmundsson?
She nods slowly to that, as if it's like a given.
This will not
And
go
you?
well for us.
It was his son that could have been.
Yes.
Yeah. And you? What do you plan?
Oaths. Sometimes I have plans. And I try to secure those plans with oaths. Try and keep things solid in a way that I can organize them and expect them with oaths. But destiny and fate and the Norns, they chuckle at my oaths. And they fuck me over and over again. And now all that I have built over my life will likely be taken by Kohlbrandr. And I have to sit down and take it because of fucking oaths.
If not for oaths, what do we have? Would you be like the Oathbreaker, Wagner?
Never.
And she would nod, agreeing to that.
But there is a cruel humor to the oath that we swear, and how fate cares not for the plans that we make. And he'll like morosely like sip from his mead.
Yeah, when he says that, she says, she would add to that, say, they say that when we are born, the skein of our life is woven. We cannot change it. Do you believe that?
I do.
And she would lean in close and she would say, I want to believe that too. But something pulls against me, telling me that I can change my fate if I so wish it. Do you believe in dreams?
Believe in dreams. I've had dreams.
No, the dreams can tell us what might come.
I'm no seer. Most of my dreams involve fat-bottomed women.
She would not chuckle at that, but Lionel does. She would shake her head. That's not being her meeting. She would say, some of my kith, it is said, they can see what is to become in dreams.
You're talking of Seath?
No. They say that we are touched by the Allfather. And she would just look at him to see what he thinks about that.
I think you get the impression that this is a man who is more practical than spiritual. And now, because his years of planning and years of like careful organization have been fucked by a decision that he can't control, is like looking for a reason for that. Maybe there is something in dreams. I don't know. I've never thought about it. The Allfather sends messages in strange ways. The cawing of ravens, the howling of wolves. Why not in dreams?
She would nod. And what of your son? Will he go north too?
He takes another like long swig of the mead and he puts it down and he says, oaths.
Yeah. She doesn't want it to show on her face, but he has used that word, has hung out there so many times from him. So she immediately starts to become suspicious of him. And she would just like mimic it. She would say, yes, oaths. We have all sworn them to the Jarl, have we not?
We have. And reputation is all. It's all that we have when we die. We're tied by these oaths, nay?
Nay. Yeah. She would stand at that. I need to get some fresh air. And She would give him a proper nod, and she would get away from this sleazy dude.
Yeah, as you leave, you'll see him just like drinking further into his cups, obviously despondent. You wanted to talk to Arnvid, Wagner. You'll find him in the tower, and you'll see him like trying not to look frantic, but like frantically packing his belongings. Like you'll have to search. He's in a room, so he's not just doing it out in public. But even so, when you find him, I imagine you're able to easily like slink through the crowd. You'll like see him in the room, just like shoving stuff into a bag and getting ready.
I have to say, it takes an awful lot for a warrior like you to turn his back against the line he's supposed to be facing.
He turns quickly, like standing in front of the bag. Oh, you.
Don't worry, Arvid, I'm not here to comment. I'm here to ask you a question.
Speak.
Do you know what's good about having a pregnant witch on board a ship?
He chuckles. Nothing is good about having a pregnant witch aboard a ship. It's bad luck upon bad luck.
Exactly. Fuck all. That's why we need your men. You want a safe south?
I'm going south because I have to protect my child. And to me, that oath is more important. That duty is more important. I do not know if I can say the same for the men who serve me. They serve this Carldom. They take that seriously. Though many of them are young, maybe.
You have your priorities, I understand. Gives a sneer as he looks around like the trashed room. You know the others that she takes?
I do not know, but I can guess.
Not your priority. And he smiles.
It doesn't matter to me who is going and who is not. As long as my child is safe.
Speak to your men. We will need them.
As you turn to go, he'll walk and he'll like put his hand on your shoulder, turn you around. This is going to be a start of something new for us, and I understand that we have begun on bad terms, but I would put that behind us. I apologize.
Nothing to apologize for.
You were a thrall then. You are not now.
Speak to the men. And he turns and goes into the crowd.
He'll turn back and start shoving the rest of the stuff into the bag. Is there anything anyone else would like to do before night falls properly?
Just get myself to the ship with all of my stuff, getting each person to an oar. I'll shave Afric's head with a blade and get him, probably teach him for the first time, but not for the last, how to pull an oar. I'm just trying to be as ready as possible so that we can leave under cover of darkness.
Yeah. So Phelim is the boy. He has two sisters. Afric is his younger sister by about a year.
Oh, sorry.
It's all good.
My bad.
And Quiva is like 4, something like that.
Well, I won't call him Phelim, of course.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, you can shave his head and like you can think of a name at some stage and make preparations. You're doing your best, I imagine, all of those aboard or like near the Red Dragon to avoid looking like you're getting ready to leave, which is surprisingly doable. Like the camp is busy and there's like a lot of people here and there's lots of activity and there's people sitting around fires and stuff like that, people moving back and forth all over the place. Particularly
Yeah, like sleeping under the planks of the ships, or like spreading cloaks between the planks and then weighing down with shields, so that the men who are ready are just like laying down prone as if they were sleeping, even if they were spotted at all.
Yeah.
Keep the sail like up. Obviously, we don't need it down. Have the oars like through the oarlocks, but like halved in, so it's just the blades poking out, like it's resting. So like as ready as possible, but not looking like a hive of activity.
Yeah.
And just wait and pray to the All-Father that Bonecloak and Wagner and Whistler arrive here with the men we need.
So Sigverker, is there anything that you're up to?
Yeah, Sigverker will continue telling tales to these men, and at some point he'll remove the bone cloak, and he'll kind of hold it, examine it in front of him, waiting for the men to kind of wonder what he's up to, and for the hush to fall upon them before he rattles it hollowly. And they'll lay it down on the ground in front of him, motioning the men to kind of huddle in so they can all get a good look at it. And they'll kneel down. As I've been pondering on a problem since Phelim's death. See, I collect stories, and each finger bone on this cloak is such a story. Each one is a tale of life, of death, and of all the in between. Every person's life is made up of stories, and each story is fermented in the blood etched upon their flesh, and they seep down into the marrow itself, and I collect them all. When I took Phelim's finger bone to add to my cloak, it felt wrong, as if the tale wasn't finished being told. Phelim was dead, so how could this story continue? And at this, Sigverker will stand, so that he's eye level. I think now I have the answer. Phelim was only the beginning. His story, his tale, his life and his death was but the first grain of sand in the forming of a mountain that will tower over all of Isclofton time. And now I have that answer to that question. I'm going to seek that mountain. And he'll lift up his bone cloak and fasten it back on. But first, I'm going to take one last look at the bay, and he'll wander off with the intention of, should anyone wish to speak to him alone, they can find him.
You can see like a lot of the men like nodding enthusiastically, and some of them like they get it, like they're enthralled by it. And as you kind of like go to leave, several of them will follow you. 4 of them at first will come and stand and will ask, "Where will you go?"
They'll go seeking the mountain. We'll go to build the mountain. And from atop it, we will look down upon our enemies and see how small they really are.
You see them like look between themselves, and one of them will say, "Can we come with you?"
He'll lean in close to the man that asks, as if evaluating them. And he'll let it drag out for a long time before he nods. If that's your wish.
It's my wish. I don't want to be here for honestly, the fucking that's to follow. There's no glory in that story of what happens here. Reputation. The forging of destiny. That's all I want. And the others are like nodding enthusiastically. And you can kind of inform them vaguely of what the plan is, and they'll nod and like go about their business. By the end of like the evening, they'll have gathered 4 more, so 8 of these gentlemen. At this stage, I imagine the deck of the ship is getting a little bit cozier. There's like lots of people on there pretending to be asleep, who are like huddled and ready. It's at that stage that like Arnvid, with several of his men, of which there are 6, will make their way onto the ship, and they'll like look around. He'll look around. Not Arnvid, because he doesn't know yet what the plan is. He's waiting for Visla to find him. But some of Arnvid's men would go, of which there are 6.
Yeah, when things seem nearly ready, Visla will slip off to find Arnvid and bring him back with her.
Does Vagnar see her go?
I reckon it's likely. If you're looking for her, then almost certainly.
For sure, absolutely. He's going to try and stop her walking off the ship, get her attention first of all, make it look like he wants to speak with her. Where are you going?
I'll be back in just a moment.
No, we're leaving now, and you have to come.
I will come with you.
We need to leave now.
We will leave in a moment. I'll walk off the ship.
No, you don't. I'm going to grab you.
No, we can't fight.
He's like holding onto you, like, and he looks over at Scum like, what?
Scum, go fetch Arnvid.
He'll nod, scurry off to do just that.
You'll find him like standing nervously with like a bag next to him. He's put on like his suit of leathers, but he's like standing nervously, like fidgeting just outside of the tower. He'll like see you approach. Yes?
The Lady Visla, she sent me. She is ready for you.
He nods, picks up the bag, and will follow you through the camp.
Yeah, I'll take like through the back of tents, avoiding the rope strings and pegs, not like through the thoroughfares or anything like that.
Yeah.
And not the way that I came here with him.
Yeah. He'll walk a separate way to you as well. He's aware of like the importance of secrecy here, trying to keep things as shady as possible. Sigrid.
Sigrid steps out of the tent, welcoming the cooler air, fresh air. She breathes in deeply and she looks up at the darkening sky. She stretches a bit, realizing that maybe she's drank more mead than she had truly intended. And she takes a step out of the tower and she's just looking at the activity around. And it's at that point that she notices Scum. And she kind of just cocks her head a bit. And then she sees him approach Arnvid, a friendship she didn't know that they shared. And then they kind of duck off. And so she would follow them. She has those warrior senses. And she says, just like when she was talking with the Thane inside, something is not right. So she would kind of shadow them as they kind of make their way through the crowd towards the coast and where the Red Dragon has been pulled up. Wait, it's not pulled up, is it? No.
It's like at sea, but I guess it's like at a dock. The Red Dragon.
Okay. But she wouldn't yell out to them. Maybe at one point she gets ready to, but then they do something that's really like too casual. I don't know if that makes any sense. and till they're probably almost to the dock, and then she would yell, "Oi, scum!" And she would start to approach him.
Sigrid.
Yeah, as she gets closer, she says, "I looked for you earlier and could not find you.
Why would you seek me?
I wish to talk to you. I'd not had the chance since." And she would look him up and down.
Is that a
and
deception check?
What?
Are you lying to me?
No.
Okay.
No, she was looking for him before the audience with the Jarl. She
Okay.
did want to talk with him.
I've been ill from my grievous wounds.
I meant to talk with you. And she would look at Ardvid. Is he standing like uncomfortably close, like he's listening to our conversation, or is he kind of stepped a few paces away so it's not quite as awkward?
He's probably with me. I'd urge him to go on now, and I'll just turn, like putting myself between you and him retreating.
Yeah, he'll look briefly between you and then make his way towards the end of the dock.
And Sigrid would say, "Earlier today, I spoke to the Jarl about you. I know that you were Phelim's man. Now you are free." Yay? Nay? She would say.
I am. Phelim's death. I have no oaths.
I had thought to speak with him and see if maybe he might give you some land in the south.
I would not serve Goodmanson, not even on the rack, not lashed to the rock, chained to the oar. I'd never serve him.
Yeah, she would kind of frown at that.
You know that to be true. That's why you're here, not in there, cowering, deciding what you'll be happy to trim away, what fat you'll give to the Kohlbrandr.
Shh. Hold your treasonous tongue. What do you mean?
It is not
And
treason to speak that. We are both free people.
She would look beyond you onto the dock. What are you about, scum? And she would get in closer to you at that. Like she doesn't want anybody else to hear.
I mean to leave this place.
She would look to the red dragon beyond you. It's probably just more of a shadow now as the light's starting to give way. And who would go with you? The other free men, then. Phelim's men.
I have found a scant score of people with sense here in this camp of the doomed.
So you would leave Phelim's wife to her fate, then, to save your own skin?
Phelim's wife and children, they will be taken by Uthil. I would leave them to their fate, not join it.
So wherever you go, south?
Where else can I go? Can't go north.
Sigrid would look over her shoulder back at the camp, to the tower where the tent is hidden. And she's just, you could see that she's having this like internal struggle with herself. And she would say to him, I have had this dream. In this dream, I do not have this hand. And she lifts up her left hand.
He flinches at that visibly. You don't know why.
And she goes, my path does not lay behind me, it is ahead.
Curious that your path lay elsewhere, but your oath binds you here. A woman cannot be two women.
Fate is a powerful thing.
It is the only thing.
And she would nod approvingly to that. Scum gets it. I like that. We cannot choose the path that has already been woven for us.
That is true.
And I suppose you take the Oathbreaker with you too.
He is a free man, free to choose his own fate, and I am not the author of it.
And she would see this slow smile spread across Sigrid's face because with what you say, you've answered her question. Do you have enough then to crew the ship?
He won't give any response, which is a response.
I would go if you'll have one more set of hands.
You'd break your oath?
I have a greater purpose.
What great irony weave the Norns. I can surely find a space for you at a bench next to Wagner. He was an oathbreaker too. A reminder of all the times she's had cruel japes at him, and I'll turn. Come.
And she doesn't move. She shakes her head if Scom turns and looks back at her. I would just see if you would let me go. I am sworn to the Jarl, so with the Jarl I will stay. And then she would step forward and she would reach out a hand to you.
Which one?
Her left. No, her right.
He'll stand forward, but he won't grab the hand. I respect your decision. May the gods be with you. May Gudmundsson not offer you up on the altar of sacrifice, like Ingvik and its wretched hold.
She would take a step closer, even though you didn't take the hand, and she would like put it behind you and reach in close. And she would whisper in your ear. She goes, "You be safe. I do not trust Wagner." And she would step back.
He'll grab the back at the nape of your neck with his hands, frightful quick, and leer in with his red eye to discern you with uncomfortable proximity. Say, I don't trust anyone.
She would, yeah, perfect. As she steps back, she nods. Gods protect you. Fair seas. And she would turn to walk away.
Yeah, I'll have a quick flame in my step as I scurry up the docks to the ship and give like a brisk to the men waiting to haul the gangway up and to like haul us out off the gravel. sweating heavily beneath like what I'm laden with, reeking of nervousness. My life just flashed before both my eyes. I thought I was going to die, so my breathing's probably, and I don't even notice that I'm moving like quicker than I need to do whatever. I'm like nervous, fidgeting, looking for an oar to haul as soon as I feel that whoop, whoop, as we like go from gravel to water.
Yeah, and I think Sigrid would do one last thing as she's kind of making her way up this beach back to the tower. She would yell to a couple of men, distracting them and getting them to do some menial tasks. Here, help me with this here, and so that they won't see them depart.
Good. Yeah, you can like cause a distraction. They'll begin like calling people over to like work on like there's a maybe like kick an ember from a flame into a nearby tent, and it like goes up, and there's like a panic that like strikes as people like said about that, and you can like just barely hear the as the red dragon into the water, and then there's a and the oars begin, and the red dragon sails away from the horrors here in Bjornsholm and out to sea. We're going to take a quick break there and go to the little girls' room, all the rest, get a drink, and we'll be back to see both the meeting and what fate awaits those who have gone to the Red Dragon. All right. Hello to all the people in the chat. I've got a bunch of people watching. I hope you guys are enjoying it. I am overwhelmed with how intense that was.
It is so good. Every scene is just like better than the previous one. It's amazing.
It's just like the most inspiration for Lionel for like actively choosing like not to send his character with the rest of the people. Amazing.
I think he also gets a couple extra inspiration points for having you in the chat going, oaths, oaths.
Well, it was great because I didn't really anticipate it so much, but then when he had that chat with the guy about oaths and fate and stuff like that, I just think it worked really well. I thought he was going to go, and I could have definitely forgiven him for that because I think it's a hard thing to basically sacrifice your character for the rest of the party, and also for an oath, but it's the most Isklov thing possible.
Yep. Death for Sigrid and cowardice for the rest of us. But that's Isklov in a nutshell.
Yep.
Either die or you're a coward.
Exactly. Also, Sigvar's story, just so good. The bones,
So good.
can't handle it.
So good.
There's only so much popcorn a man can eat. Let's see who we got. We shout out to Samakora, who's Lawler, who is the Iskloft Twitter presence. Fair play to him for all his hard work. Much appreciated.
Oh, hey, how's it going? Chatted with you on Twitter. You're doing great work. What was it you said to me, Lloyd, the other day? You're doing the Allfather's work.
Yep. Yo, Lionel, unbelievable. That can't have been easy.
Yeah.
It cannot have been easy, but it was for sure the most Isklov thing.
I just figured Sigrid would want to see what Scum would say and do.
Yeah. Yep, that makes sense.
Because Sigrid doesn't know that Hvisla is gone yet. I mean, she didn't ask about that. She just knows. Yeah. She's just glad that Vagnar's leaving. She probably sees that as a blessing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Scum just kind of subtly implying that they're leaving the kids behind as well.
Yep.
Not giving anything away. That was good. That was good. But really well done for that, Lionel. I thought for sure that Sigrid was about to be like, oh, yep, I'm coming with you.
No.
After hearing that Thane just bitch about all the oaths earlier, and they're like, oh, no, you're just stuck. Don't do it.
That's it, though. The conflict, they used oaths to make laws and to keep things, but then you're stuck, and fate just messes with you. Just waiting for Rob to come back, I think. We'll be good to go.
The glory and shames and oaths and foreshadowing and
felt really Uhtred with all the talk of fate and oaths and all the rest.
Painted with a pretty grey palette here, I think. Feel like shame-ridden.
Good.
Yeah.
Also, poor Phelim's wife. That's insane, man. That's not a good position to be in.
She's braver than I would be.
Me too.
Hopefully she tries to kill Uthil with that blade.
Although you got to reckon try is the operative word there, you know?
Yeah, but at least he'll kill her and she'll go to Valhalla.
Yeah. Come on, Rob. Pushing it. Yeah, so I don't know what the story is. Obviously, you're going to be there at the meeting, but after this, you'll probably have to be a Radlander or something, somebody new, because I don't think it makes sense to run Sigrid's life up there and then.
No, that's perfectly fine. It makes sense.
But I think that's like absolutely the right call that you made, which I'm very pleased with. I think that really fits.
Oaths are strong.
Yep.
That's what I was thinking.
It's more than just like a promise in Iscloft. It's like a sacred thing. Like the gods decide over it, and like breaking an oath is like no small thing, you know. And I think like people would like treat them with a sort of like religious reverence, you know.
So plus she's an Iron Eye.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Okay, so the red dragon slips away into the water, and as the fire kind of like kicks up in that tent, people are like panicking, and it's a couple of minutes maybe before people like see it quite a bit away, and there's like shouts of alarm, and some of the men like look to you, Sigrid, like, what do we do? What do we do? They're fleeing. Call Arnvid. And there's like people shouting for like Arnvid, who's ostensibly the boss of this place at the moment. And there's chaos when no one can find him. And there's just like people shouting and screaming and all those sorts of insanity. There's too many cooks here. Like there's the various Thanes and the Jarl, and then like all the various warriors and stuff, and everyone's shouting for different things. And some people are saying, get on the ships. And some of them are like, we can't go after them. We have to go to the meeting. And all this chaos. And basically in all of the chaos, nothing happens. There's too many people shouting for different things, and there's just nothing that happens. And it's maybe like 30 minutes that go by before there's any sort of semblance of order again. And at that stage, it looks like they have made it and gotten away. The Red Dragon, you will sail along the northern coast of the peninsula, and you'll get to just about where Ørlåg is, like maybe 2 or 3 hours of sailing, and you will see, even here in the dark, the ship of Ogvai. It's big. It's bigger than your ship, and yours is a Drakkar. This is obviously something specially made for him. And there are torches lit on it, which is unusual generally by night. It's cleverer to travel with no torches lit so that people don't see you from a distance, but obviously they're not worried. And you can hear like a song being sung as you see the big ship ahead. And you can see like the white sail with the red horn skull that's Ogvai's symbol as they like sail towards Ørlåg and towards Bjornsholm.
We should flag them down. Stop them from going to Bjornsholm.
Are you the one that's going to do the talking, huh?
Ogvai has no love for Sather. It would be better if someone else spoke.
Ragnar looks around the ship. Any volunteers?
You can hear the of the oars of their ship as it like comes closer and closer, and you'll hear a shout, this like rumbling shout of Ogvai's voice. Oh there!
Scum will take a cow horn and blow it. Permission to approach.
Granted. You can throw the ropes and things and pull the longships next to each other. You'll see him standing at the side and like looking down, just as big now as when you had seen him previously. Every time you see Ogvai, you are stunned. Every time you see a Jotunnet, it never looks normal. It never looks natural. They're too big to be real. And you can see even as he like walks to like the side of the ship that their ship kind of like moves ever so slightly and dips a little bit in the water from his enormous weight. He like looks around and he spots someone that he recognizes, which would be Ragnar. What is this?
Ragnar looks around. There has been a complication.
What complication?
The Carl Phelim. He is dead.
He turns around to look at the assembled like fucking scumbags and ruffians that make up Ogvai's bastards, and many of them are like leering, and many of them then like spit or like look angry. What about my fucking money?
Do we have any gold with us?
Of course, as you'd asked me earlier, I have half of Phelim's loot drawn up in chests, ready to pay Ogvai compensation, great lord. Though you'll not have to fight Uthil and earn the full tenure Phelim had promised. A glorious deceased payee, on his behalf, accept this gift from him for the trouble of sailing up here.
He like turns to one of the men next to him and he says, "It has been a fucking long sail," and the man like nods.
May Phelim's gift rings soothe you in the next comely port you choose.
What's your name, boy? You speak well.
Scum, called Blood Eye.
Ah, scum. He like speaks the old language and he knows what scum means in that old tongue. That's an unfortunate name.
A man doesn't choose his name or names.
No, else I wouldn't have chosen Ogvai 3 times, eh?
Maybe not.
Well, show me the wealth.
He'll gesture for 2 of the loyal crew to like carry the chest up. I'll get like 2 of the like weaker guys so that it looks like they're straining with the wealth they're in, and like haul it up onto his deck and to bring it down at his feet. I'll lean and like flick it open to reveal the rings and broken silver.
You'll see them like nervously as they like put the crate in front of him, the stand up that they just about come up to his waist. And he like looks down at them and at the wealth. He looks at the smaller man next to him who's kind of gaunt and like looks learned. He's got that kind of look, intelligent features. He like leans down, he like rifles through, and then he like whispers a number into Ogvai's ear, an approximation of the wealth there. We were promised 70% of the loot taken from the battle.
Well, there'll be no battle. Phelim is dead. So your quarrel with Uthil dies with that oath sworn to him. 70% of nothing is nothing, which is less than what you have here.
He like sucks in his teeth. And when he like the sound of it is quite loud. It's like this sort of like that echoes here on the sea. And it's just like the sound of the ships like and like the groaning of the wood and this long silence as Ogvai thinks about it. Like looks up. All right. He like looks over the ship, trying to search for more signs of wealth. Wagner, do you have your fine Sayax on you?
I mean, yeah.
So he's like looking. You, give me that sword.
A fine tool. It has slain many a warrior. A fitting gift. I'll turn my head slowly to Wagner with a... Come on, man.
Fuck's sake.
You've seen Ogvai do this before. It's obvious that he just wants to get the last word and he wants to push for like one extra thing. He always demands more than he gets. and you can tell that from him, and that's why people don't fuck with him, basically ever. Just twist the knife.
Yeah, Ragnar steps forward and he's toying with his belt as he approaches. He says, "They call me Fell Hand. No use to me anyway. I gladly give it." And he produces the seax.
He'll like reach over with his enormous hand and like grab it. It's like a toothpick in his hands. He's obviously not going to use it. And he'll like hand it to a man next to him. Who'll like put it into the chest. "What did you do? Why were you branded?" "On my crew, we murder oathbreakers."
Kin killing Ørlåg.
Scratches at his beard. "And you, scum, you associate with this man?"
I associate with all men when the time requires it. I've fought with Fagnar in the shield wall, shed and wept blood with him. So yes, I associate with him. We do not choose our kin either.
True. Well, no point in going up there. We'll be sailing south to the next port. We can sail together if you like.
We would not wish to slow you down, Ogvi. We've no so many rowers nor sleek a vessel as you. Though thank you, but our path must be our own.
He gives like this nod, and the men start like pulling the ropes and throwing them back to you. And he looks over. "Scum, I'll remember." And they start chanting and like move with alarming speed away with like a full crew of 50 on the oars. They quickly outpace you and sail back south. And as you sail the rest of that night and it starts to turn into day, the morning in the camp is dour, Sigrid, as people begin their preparations. Everyone puts on their finest, brightest mail that has been like scoured throughout the night to make everything and everyone look as shiny as possible and everyone to look as intimidating as possible. Many of the men like draw runes on themselves or like smudge their faces with black for what they think might be their last day. And the march begins northward. It's a grim procession as you make your way with the Thane's men and the Jarl's men. There's about 150 of you all together, so no small gathering, probably one of the bigger groups that you've been to. And you can make your way north to that point. You'll see the stone in the distance, this great stone carved with a semblance of a Valknut, of a dead man's knot. And you'll see that set up in front of it is this great tent that's been set up. And you can see that around it, there are 10 longships that have pulled up onto the beach. Beyond it, there are 5 more patrolling the waters. These are the crews of Uthil Kohlbrandr. And as you approach, you, the Jarl, the Thanes, and their various huscarls are like brought into this enormous tent. There's like music playing, and you can see these gathered inside. First, you can see this giant with his long black beard and these curved horns. He stands right behind what can only be Uthil Kohlbrandr with this enormous axe, twice the size that you are. And his horns like touch against the roof of the tent. He's almost unmoving, though his like eyes scan every single person who enters. Sitting beneath him on this like fine wooden throne is Uthil Kohlbrandr, though younger now than when he had been previously. Not a sign of burn anywhere on his body, perfectly scarless, healed to his fullest. He looks in his prime, And then on the other side, this woman, this long red hair that pours down over her body. She has these antlers, this antler headdress. Beyond that, you can see many warriors, some of whom you recognize. You can see Jarl Redblade and Aeska Brokenlip, who you had seen in Gunland. Beyond that, there are some you recognize by reputation. You can see Ragnulf Ormsaug, the snake. He's got these great serpent tattoos up his arms. You can also see the famous champion Red Rugga, this man who stands totally naked with a huge sword planted into the ground. And now you enter, and he looks up, Uthil, from his throne. He just gestures to the seats. Jarl, Goodmanson, take a seat. And immediately, it's more of a command than an offer, and you get that impression straight away. The Jarl sits with many of his people, and you yourself stand in the back of this tent with the other Huskarls. Uthil will lean forward. He will call Jarl. And this old man with like a broken, sort of crooked back with this like great robe will step forward, and he'll take a knife and he'll carve a rune into the table. And he'll like mutter some words, and the rune for a moment will with fire before he will hand to the Jarl and to Uthil a cup, and they'll both drink from it, cementing the peace. Tense and quiet, and you can just hear like the flapping of the various banners and of the tent all around. There's just this awful quiet that settles into the place before Uthil speaks. It is good that you have come. The senseless violence cannot continue. It's clear to everyone here that you are beaten, and it's best that we come to terms quickly. My terms are thus. Firstly, the annexation of Ingvik, the province in its entirety. Secondly, the vassalization of your Jarldom to mine. Thirdly, the hostages will be taken from the immediate family of each thane and from yourself, Jarl. The Jarl is like sitting there, and his eyes are wide as he just like listens to these insane terms. He then says, you will deliver unto me the witch Havisla, the Carl Phelim, any descendants of Isvald, any descendants of the Carl, and any who sailed in his crew. Beyond that, monthly tribute from each village in your Jarldom will be delivered to me. The thanes that are there can stay in place, but I will place a crew in each thanedom to act as my representatives. Finally, I am in need of a wife, and it is clear that you have a daughter. I will take her. And the Jarl is like sitting, and you can see his like hand is shaking. He's like trying to control it. If you'll allow me, Jarl Uthil, I would like to confer with my thanes. And Uthil like shakes his head and laughs. No, you are Jarl. You make the decisions. Though this is, in many respects, a thing, so any who are here are welcome to speak. There's like this long silence. None of the thanes dare say anything. Sigrid, do you?
I know what Lionel would say. She would step forward and she would say, Phelim is dead. Killed.
You see the young man, as you speak, just shift his head in your direction.
That she would probably stumble a bit. It would, becoming uncomfortable. And then she would gather the courage and she would continue. And those of his crew, they have fled. And then she would probably take a step back, just saying maybe what the Jarl probably wouldn't want to say, but he would want somebody to say.
Uthil turns back to the Jarl. Carl Phelim is dead. His crew are fled. And he nods. Uthil calculates for 1d4 seconds before saying, very well. His wife and children then will be delivered unto me. And the Jarl will hesitate to say, his children too are gone. And you see this gesture where Uthil balls his fist for a moment. And the Kona, the witch at his side, will just quietly put her hand on his shoulder. I see.
Lloyd, if I could, something Sigrid probably would have done on the walk north is she would have approached Phelim's wife, having seen that her eyes are puffy and red from crying. And I just see her giving her a speech, something along the lines of, "You must be brave for your children."
Yeah, you can
it's
see
easy. She would say something like, "It would be easy for me to ask you to do this because I am not you, but you need to do this. You must show no fear." And she would be building her up for this moment right now, because she needs to speak, because if she wants to get kind of the heat off her kids, she's got to kind of be that sacrifice.
Yeah, you would see that she has her jaws firmly set to the point where you think her teeth are about to crack. She's trying so hard to keep it together in the presence of this giant and this witch and Uthil Kohlbrandr, some of the most terrifying enemies and figures in Iscloft. Uthil is calculating and thinking. You can see his mind working wheels within wheels inside as he thinks of what the appropriate replacement is. His wife then will be delivered to me. And the Jarl nods. Well, in place of Phelim and his family, I will take 2 hostages from each of the Thanes. I will take your daughter, Jarl, and your wife. And the Jarl is shaking his head. That's too much. Jarl, it's too much. And he just smashes his fist into the table. I will tell you what is too much. If you have a problem with it, he just looks around, then do something. And the Jarl does nothing. As you say, Jarl. And Uthil nods slowly. Good. Then you are my vassal. You will call me lord. You will deliver tribute to me monthly. Since there will be no Thane in Ingvik, I will place one of my own men there. And he turns to look at the assembled maniacs and murderers behind him, and he looks them over. Ormsaug, you will be Thane, and this just disgusting reaver with broken teeth. He's got these insane snake tattoos all over his body. Looks like he has never done anything except kill in his life. He smiles. Thank you, Jarl. And you can see the assembled people looking this man is going to be the Thane of Ingvik. This man probably is the one who went and blood eagled all the people of Ingvik. Very good. And of the crew of Carl Phelim, they have all gone? All those who served with him? And you see the Jarl think about lying for a moment.
Sigrid would step forward before the Jarl has to be put in that position.
You served with him?
She nods.
You will address me as Jarl, you stupid bitch.
Yes, Jarl, she would say. She would kind of probably chew her tongue a bit. But she would say, yes, I am the only one that did not run.
Commendable, but unfortunate for you. You will be sentenced to thraldom immediately. Take her weapons, bring it to my ship. And like nobody moves, the Jotunnet just turns its head. And like many of the people who are standing next to you, like take an involuntary step away, so that you are like left on your own there.
Sigurd would drop her war axe, her knife, CX, and shield.
You see like two of Uthil's men like with relish like grab you and like pull you out of the tent. You're like dragged, and you can see like that behind the tent there are like 300 of Uthil's people easily. Like some of them on the ship, some of them like standing ready in case anything goes wrong. You're like dragged there onto one of the ships and thrown on, where someone will lash you to an oar. And what happens in the tent thereafter is unknown. On the Red Dragon, you've been sailing for the best part of a week, maybe, south, ever southwards. Where do you intend to go? Also, your supply level drops by 1.
We should stop at the next small port, resupply with some of the coin we have, make our way to Vali land, inland, away from the sea. We can sell the ship to get a new hoard, so the one in our current hull. We should have not too much worry of spending it.
We will not share the information that our destination is Valleyland with the rest of the crew until we leave the port.
Agreed. They say there are many Jarls in the fertile lands of Valley lands. There are woods where people cannot starve.
You would know tales of Valleyland that it's like impossible to go hungry there, that like the place is so verdant that even like an idiot could farm crops there and never go hungry. That like it's sunny, that it's this bountiful and verdant place.
We might need more gold. We might need more crew.
Crew for what? I have no intention of leaving.
Agreed, says Scum. We can't lose any more crew.
Not to reeve. Just to ensure that our journey there is as swift as possible and protected. And he gives a warning look at Hvisla.
Is there anything you can do, Wisla? He probably hasn't said the word Wisla before. Anything you can do to aid us in our sojourn south, away from these lands?
With a bit of time, I can help hide our ship from prying eyes. It would be difficult to sail, but doable if we are sure the water is safe enough.
We'll cut the Carl's children's hair and we'll never speak their true names again.
So you can sail southwards, and it's easy for you to find like a coastal village or like sail up a river to find somewhere that you can like resupply, if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, if we can spot the settlement, we should pull into a beach or cove away from it and send people to trade and then come back, so we don't have the Red Dragon trail for these people in this port till the next ship that might inquire about us here, and use some of the hack silver and loot we had in the previous reavings.
Sure. So who goes?
To resupply.
Mm-hmm. You just want to send peons?
No, Sigverka is wise and oldest amongst us, probably has the most coin wise. People respect Berserker here in these lands where they might not favour others. He looks to the witch, to the blood eye, and to the branded outlaw. We are all marked. Sigverka is not.
Arnvid perhaps could go as well.
Wagner bites back something that he just longs to say about Arvid.
Arvid's experience in logistics and supplying people. He'd be a wise choice too. We just need to do it quickly, without fuss.
So you can sail, and you can see like just up the mouth of a river. There's like quite a big settlement there. If you wanted to pull in there, though you would have to probably dock the ship there. Other than that, you could like sail down and try and find like a coastal village, but they would be smaller and maybe less likely to have significant supplies.
This needs to be as swift as possible. Ensure that everything that we need is gathered. He gestures to Sigverka. We do not want to be chased.
So then Arnvid and Sigverka can make their way. Which do you want to go for, the village or the town? You want to hide the ship, right? So the village probably.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
village. Yeah.
So you can beach the ship, maybe a mile or two outside of the village. Sigverka, Arnvid, and 3 others can go into the village. It's like midday, cold day, clear, a little bit of rain here and there, and you can approach. They're polite people, and they welcome a berserker, as it is right to do and smart to do. You're like brought into the longhouse or the sort of tavern area, and they're eager to chat. They don't get many visitors, and they're eager to chat to a berserker who would arrive. A man called Hjor will sit opposite you, Sigverka, and talk excitedly about like events and what's happening in the world. Where have you come from?
Oh, I'm not giving an honest answer to that.
Have you heard about the goings on? He like leans in conspiratorially.
I will also lean in conspiratorially, as if I haven't.
Trouble up north.
Isn't there always?
They say that Goodmanson bent over a barrel and got fucked by Uthil. It's all Uthil's land now. We're worried here. Maybe he'll come this far south. I wouldn't go north anyway if I were you.
It was not my intention. But I thank you for the warning.
Well, we have to look out for good and honourable men, eh? What'll it be? Salted fish? And he'll get into like negotiations of like what you want to buy, and he's like no great negotiator, but he knows that you guys need it, and they have like fresh food and things like that, which will save your lives. So you can like spend the requisite amount of coin and hack silver, and your supply will go up by 1.
I'll while all this is going on, I'll probably get Arnwood to do the majority of the negotiations and planning and everything else. But I will ask if there's a craftsman in town or anyone of that ilk.
We have a smith.
Not so much a smith, but a woodworker or someone who
Sure.
crafts small items, children's items.
Yeah, definitely.
If you point me in their direction.
Yeah, he'll bring you outside and he'll say, up there, first left, and then a right. You'll find him. Sigurd.
I'll head off in that direction.
Yeah, you can make your way through the village. It's pretty idyllic. It's not as cold in this part of the world. Even a week makes a big difference when you're traveling. And you can make your way. There's like a sort of carpenter's shop. And you can find Sigurd, a man in maybe his early 50s. He'll be like working on a barrel. He'll see you and he'll like wipe his hands onto his apron and stand. Honored guest.
I wonder if perhaps you could help me. I'm going to meet kin in the south. They have small children. It irks me. I have no love for children, but it is rude to show up without a gift.
Just so. Toys, is it? I see. And he like looks into his shop. He like goes to a chest and he like rifles around. He pulls out like a couple of wood carved animals and like places them onto the table between you. There's a wolf, there's a bear, there's a squid that he's carved, an eagle, things like that. Horses.
Sigverker looks at the toys. He'll choose one of the horses, and yeah, he'll take the eagle for the 2 youngest children.
Excellent choices, he says. I can put their names on if you like.
That would be necessary, but a rune for luck protection.
Of course, yeah. He like rifles around. He like pulls out this wooden slab where he has a bunch of runes and then like an explanation. And he like looks carefully, and he'll set to like chiseling the runes in. And you can buy them from him and make your way back home to the ship. Oh yeah, okay. So yeah, he'll put the runes in for you, Tex, and you can take them.
And dealing with that, he'll thank the carpenter and the craftsman and make his way back. But as he does so, he will head off. This is something he wanted to do kind of in secret. He is going to head off towards the blacksmith because he does want to pick up a sword or a good weapon for Phelim's son.
Yep. So this is no great smith. He wouldn't have any swords, but you could definitely buy like a wood cutting axe or like a stern sort of axe, or you could buy a spear as well if you were inclined. He wouldn't have swords or like war weapons. He would just have like defensive weapons for like villagers and the like, and he wouldn't have many.
Just the finest he has, and including perhaps any practice weapon. and a practice dagger.
Yeah, he'd have like sort of unfinished, so like dull weapons that you could use for practice if you were that way inclined. That he'll part with for like a decent, very cheap price, and he could provide you with a spear or a woodcutter's axe, whichever you want for the boy.
Yeah, you should really learn the axe.
So you can pick those up for the smith. He'll make a tidy little profit as you hand over the hack silver, and you can return to the boat laden with gifts. You'll be able to find Arnvid on the way back, and the men who came with him, like dragging some barrels of like fish and pork with them onto the ship to resupply. You can drag them like the whole distance back to the ship before finally getting ready to sail again.
Well, I've no wish to hand these gifts over personally to the children, so I would seek out Uthil.
What do you have?
The children must be frightened, scared witless. It's but a small token, but perhaps it could take their minds off what has happened. And one by one, he'll lift out the horse and then the eagle.
She smiles. Does a kind gift.
Yes, gifts fitting for children. However, these gifts for the younger, these are gifts for a young man. And then he'll hand over the weapons.
Boy's father ought to give him his first weapons.
Boy's father is dead. There's no taking it back. Regardless, a boy must learn.
Thank you.
The ship is underway. Basically, as soon as Sigverker and Arnvid get back on, Wagner is like bellowing for people to get the fuck back onto the waves, and you can start sailing south. Another week, your supply level drops again. You see no ships. It's coming into proper winter, and so you're starting to see less people out there. And dangerous waters, particularly around the pirate islands that you know so well. As you like begin to approach that area, will you go around this time into the choppy water, or will you try and sail through the mists once again? And also an important question: if you're going to Valleyland, are you going to go through the middle, or will you sail around the coast of Sutterfield?
The middle was both faster and safer, right?
Far safer.
Yes. Though much more heavily like sailed.
Yeah, that's fine. We can find a port, sell this ship for some good coin, and head inland into obscurity.
Yes.
So you can sail for another week and a half. At this stage, the crew is starting to feel a little bit cabin fevery. Wisela's baby bump very much showing, and people are starting to feel very unsafe on the ship with a woman who is pregnant and a witch on the ship, and there's much fear about what that omen says. A great lot of fear, and every time she like walks by, there's spits and groin grabs and grabs at Thor's amulets, just in case. You will run into some pretty rough weather as you like pull into the center of Iscloft, like in that inner sea, and you can see Concastellan, this great Jotun castle that like towers hundreds of feet up. You can see it from a great distance, but the waves start to get more and more intense, and you can see this like storm cloud ahead, and heavy rain starts to fall in sheets onto the ship. I'll need someone to give me a sailing check, please.
I am proficient. Unless someone else is, I'll roll the first dice
Yeah.
for this session. Okay. 9. I'll use that inspiration you gave me last session, Lloyd.
Go for it.
20. Dirty
Okay.
20.
Yeah, so you're able to you're like bellowing at the people to like stick on the oars and like keep the ship facing the waves so that it can like cut through them as opposed to be rolled over by them in this insane like rain as you like sail into the storm. You're soaked, and again like the freezing cold water will like over the side of the ship as the people rowing are just like soaked, and they're just like pulling. There's blood in their hands as they try their best to like sail against this storm. People are screaming to Thor as thunder rolls overhead.
Wisla goes to the very prow of the ship, and you see her balanced there, feet spread wide, hands up. She is speaking to the sky. She has a fish in one hand, one that was caught earlier and has a semblance of life to it. And she raises it up and she sings over the wind and over the waves and over the thunder. And as her song finishes, she brings it to her face and she bites the fish. She spits out the bone and swallows the blood, and the storm begins to calm. And I'm casting I hush the wind on the stormy wave.
So you sing Odin's song, and you see many of them men like who are like rowing for their lives, trying to keep the ship in line with the waves. It's like whoosh, whoosh, and just like this endless, and lightning crackles overhead. But strangely, they can hear your voice over it all. This like ancient song in a strange language, and eventually, like it seems that there's like a part in the clouds above that seems to follow the ship, and the waves start to calm. And the men are conflicted between gratitude that they're no longer in such danger, and also just like a deep-seated fear of what happened there. Like you spoke to the storm and it calmed, and they are like equal parts like reverential and terrified as they see you do that. But the storm will calm and you'll be able to sail the rest of the way, and you can see now the coast of Valleyland ahead, these great forests rolling upwards on these hills that eventually lead to this great mountain range in the distance. And it's green. It's so green compared to where you are from. Everything is green. These great forests and these rolling hills, everything is verdant and beautiful, and it looks warm and homey. Now, you'll sail past many a port on your way. Is there a particular part of Valleyland you want to land? Do you know anything about Valleyland? Where do you want to go?
Would we
Do we
have
want
the
to
map?
Do we want to sell the ship or keep it? What do you guys think? I feel like it's a breadcrumb to us if we keep it.
It's a good ship as well, isn't it? We can sell it for a fair coin.
Yeah, it's a Draka. It'd be worth quite a lot.
You could definitely trade it for property.
That might not be a bad idea. I suppose it depends on where we decide to land, though.
My preference, or Scom's preference, would be like inland, like hinterland of Valiland, away from the coast, and where like Uthil's tentacles could reach. So it's unlikely we could sell the ship at a port for hinterland property.
Mm-hmm. You could sell it for money, though.
That's right. That would be my preference.
Or we can get a property at a port and start making more coin by taking jobs. I don't know.
I'm reluctant to stay on a port. I think Uthil will come and punish us once he hears of the Red Draka at certain port. And the Red Eye, the Outlaw, and the Witch he hunts.
Visla would probably have a conversation with Arnvid at some point about going inland and finding a quiet village here in Valleyland. They welcome Sather. It is a good place to be. And the children, the 3 elders, are not our own. But they could be welcome as well, and they would never go hungry.
He nods, and you can see like the bountiful land beyond, and you can see across his face, like, why did I live where I lived? You know, like, if you can live here where it's warm and bountiful and people have plenty, and he like nods. This can be a home for us.
Aye. And I'll be your wife if you'll still have me.
He smiles. Of course.
I think whilst that conversation is happening, Wagner just slinks away in the background after listening in, maybe.
So you can approach several port towns. They tend to be bigger down here. You'll see like a lot of the villages on the coast have more people, and they tend to be bigger than they are up north. Like a higher concentration of people and concentration of houses as well. What are you looking for in a port? Are you looking for like a city or like somewhere big? Or are you looking for somewhere small?
Somewhere big enough that would have the cash, or a merchant to have the liquid cash to buy our ship, I think would be like the deciding factor. If we're intending to sell it and head inland, I'm still not sure if we're like decided on that. But that's the kind of place we want to stop at. I don't think we want to stop at a city if we can help it, because they're big and a lot of people could notice us and yada yada.
Sure. Okay. So you can search. You like sail past maybe the biggest collection of people you've seen, like this big city that like sprawls and covers both sides of a river with like several bridges. Like sprawls upwards, and there's a castle there and everything. It's much larger than the places you would have seen at home. It like dwarfs Jarl Gudmundson's Holdfast. It dwarfs by miles Ingvik. You reckon there must be thousands of people living there. But you can sail past that and find like a more modest place. Again, up a river. You'll see like several bridges, but also lots of docks for like ships to stop, and like a great many like welcoming taverns and things like that. You can sail into that village. that town and pull up your ship, you'll be greeted by a portly man, maybe the first you've ever seen in your life, apart from that elderman in Ørlåg, in Jarnvik, with like this big long mustache, though no beard. He's bald. There's like maybe 5 men with him as they approach the ship, and he'll call, "Welcome."
Before anyone can speak, Wagner turns and he gives like a muttered whisper to Scom. "We'll remain together until we have a plan worked out. We do not want some of the crew wandering and talking."
Yes, Scom would nod, wise.
How there? Hello?
"You do the honors, Scom. You have a gift, and it must be nurtured."
They respect the vulva in these parts. Her word will carry more weight than a blood-eyed youth.
Wisla somewhat waddles down. Hail, and well met.
Ah, hail. He'll like incline his head. "You're most welcome. It's a fine ship."
Aye, it is. It has served us well in our passage.
Where have you come from?
We've come from many places, but we see these green lands, and we think our sailing days are behind us.
"You like the look of this ship? Do you want to buy it?"
Would you care to inspect the ship for purchase?
He like looks taken aback. It seems like he was just making conversation, and it's a pretty aggressive negotiation style you guys have. He like doesn't know what to say. "I don't think I could afford her." "You're welcome to stay." And he like points to this like great building behind him. It's got 3 stories, like obviously some sort of tavern or something, the likes of which you wouldn't have seen at home. And you're welcome to eat and stay. We've got fine food and entertainment, he'll say. "You thinking to make Valleyland your home?"
Perhaps, but it is a good place to start looking, all the same.
"Better than the frigid north, eh?" he'll say, noticing your accents.
Aye, the north is cold and unforgiving.
"And full of giants, from what I hear. And wolves," he'll say. Just like those are the myths that people down here hear about the north. "Well, if you're planning to stay, you'll have to speak with the Jarl, I suppose. If you want to stay here in town, you can set up anywhere you like."
And who is Jarl here?
Bragi, Berthgerson.
It would be good to meet with him. We thank you for your hospitality.
Of course. You will have to pay for the docking, of course.
Naturally. Scum here will settle the fees with you.
He'll nod. He'll point behind him. "Well, more than welcome. We've room for all of you. Or if you can sleep on your ship, if you like. It's really up to you." "You look hungry."
Visla kind of nods. Goes, a hot meal would be most welcome by all, I believe.
"And we have fine meat from the cold run. Berries in."
Did he say cold run?
He did.
I'll step over the gunwale and like pilfer through the belt pouch for the requisite docking fee.
It's outrageous compared to the prices you would pay up north. You would be shocked. Like up north, you might pay like a hack silver a day. He expects 10.
Well, I'm thumbing out the hack silver to him. I'll ask him, do you know of anyone with the wealth here who'd be interested in buying this ship?
A fine ship like this? Maybe the Jarl.
Very well. Thank you. And I'll place out the 10th bit for him.
Of course, more than welcome. Fine mead, and he'll like go rattling on about like the menu and like the mead that they have here and all the rest.
I'm probably surprised that so many people here seem happy and they're not drunk. Scum like doesn't understand.
Yeah, it's busy too. You'll see people walking all over the place, and like there's like hawkers on the street. There's also like homeless people here. You can see beggars and things which you would never see at home. There's just a lot of people in a very small space, which is unusual for you all, I imagine.
Let's go enjoy the hospitality.
You can make your way inside into this like big tavern. Big hearth in the center. Lots of people here. There's like music playing, and the smell of like delicious cooked meat, and like fine dinners. And you can like sit together and enjoy the warmth and the hospitality here. It's up to you guys.
Scum will grab a bloody haunch and take it over to the table with 4 horns of mead and sits with like the party of the Red Dragon. A rare smile on his face as he like hands out the stuff.
Sigrid, you're on the ship. You've been chained to an oar. A couple of hours have gone by, and you can see the people leaving. The Jarl's men and women and huscarls or whatever, they're all leaving. They're heading home. Although many of them have stayed, who are like being taken hostage, you'll see many of them like ferried onto different ships. Red Rugga climbs aboard your ship. It's obviously his. He'll like bark out some orders in this, maybe this tongue you can't speak. Can you speak Norse?
Nope.
Okay, so you just hear this like as he's like muttering to the others, and you hear this like cackle, like and like 3 men will come over and like grab you and like pull you off the oar, and they will tie a rope to each of your wrists. They will then tie those to the mast, and they will drop you off the front of the ship so that you're splayed just above the waterline of the ship. They hold you there, and then they begin to row in the ice cold water. You're underwater over and over again as they row north. An hour goes by, and you start to like lose consciousness from the constant like trying to find your breath, and you can feel the hour of your death approaching.
So there's probably little that she would do. She can't actually say a prayer out loud because it's cold seawater. She's weak. She can no longer feel her limbs. They've been numb for much of the time now. But she knows that she doesn't have a blade in her hand. A warrior's death. Though a farmer she was, a warrior she was as well. And she just weakly looks up to a sky at nothing in particular, and she says, "All Father, I die without a blade in my hand. but I lived my life, with the exception of the Elfer. We'll leave that part out, but there is that part of her story. Honorably until the end. Though I may not earn a seat at your table, I hope that you will at least allow me to take my place among the Valkyr so that I might lead brave warriors to Valhalla to fight the end in the end of times. And that's what she would say. And then she would probably, like, this tear would come down as she thinks of her children, of her farm that she'll never see again. And then she would just fade into darkness as she gives into the exhaustion, and seawater enters her lungs.
Yeah, the tear rolls down your face just as you finish, and then another splash of water. You're underwater for a couple of seconds, and there's no more pain, no more fear, no more Sigrid. So back in Valleyland, it is warm and jovial in the tavern. There's songs being sung and tales being told. And you sit now with these horns of mead, with the future ahead of you. What do you think? What do you say?
We all need to ensure that no questions are asked of our presence here. We need to make sure that everyone who came with us aboard that ship keeps their mouth closed for all of our sakes. And he directs a glance at Arnvid.
I would go inland, go elsewhere. A group of this size with your brand and your eye and your coat. We are too easily recognized.
Which is why we will move in force.
No,
We will remain as one unit.
I will not. Arnvid and I will go our own way.
Ragnar sits back and he doesn't say anything.
I would wish to take the three with us. Raise them, give them a proper home.
That is a good plan.
It seems the safest for all of us.
I swore to Thorin I'd protect the boy Phelim and see his sisters wed to goodly men, but I am marked and would lead Uthil to them. I intend to honour that oath. Could call on me if you need. Shima won't be hard to find. But I think if Isla is right, we'll only attract attention, so many people. Arnvid and his go with Visla and the children. They might have a hope.
And the best protection you can give the children is anonymity. If they are unknown, then they will be just like anyone else. And they cannot be hunted. And her voice is very low, even though the room is loud and there's a lot of other conversation going on. She wants to be absolutely sure that no one overhears this. And she also gives Scum a sharp look when he says Phelim's name.
Arnvid would nod. I'll take
Yeah,
that.
like secluded, like wouldn't be.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, yeah, I would have been whispering this as well, like not bellowing it out in front of everybody, but yeah.
Arnvid would say to you, Scum, that he'll take up that oath. I'll see that they're raised well. And if we need you, we'll call on you, but I'll see them married well. They're blameless in this.
Scom has 80 hack silver since when he was penniless before joining Phelim to now. So he's going to take 70 of it and give it to Arnvid for the boys' blades and the girls' dowry. It's not much.
Every little will help.
The skeins are strong about you, Scum. I cannot see what it will be. But your fate is not ordinary. Greatness, perhaps.
Scom's just uncomfortably silent at that, not knowing what to say.
Arnvid will say, we should go now then, the sooner the better. The longer that we all sit together, the longer people have to realize or to spot us or to say something. It only takes one.
Agreed. We can try and sell the ship to this braggy, this Jarl. His haul is fine enough. We won't get a good price, because hasty is our need. But still, I'd wager more coin than any of us have seen.
Certainly.
We part ways, like Arnvid says.
Aye.
So you can spend the night drinking and feasting, getting a hot meal in your bellies. The crew is much relieved to find solid ground, to find incredible mead, delicious food, and loose women here in the tavern. And you can spend the night here comfortably. No one looks in your direction. No one seems to recognize any one of you. You've come about as far as possible from where you had been, and you sailed with all haste. In the morning, if you like, you can go and speak with Jarl Bragi, Berksgarson.
Yeah, I would like to. Would anyone else?
I think Wisla would find Sigverker in the kind of gray pre-dawn. We are leaving, Wonder.
You have chosen to wander on your own for a while, away from the rest of us.
Aye, for the sake of all the children I now have.
And what will you teach them when they ask questions?
My stories will never be as good as yours. But in quiet voices, with the door closed, you will tell them the stories of their parents. Where will you go?
I am unsure. But I feel like there's still a mountain to be built, to be raised from the ground up. So I will search for that.
Then may the gods smile on you, mountain builder. And if you wander, and you find me, you will always be welcome at our table.
So morning
Excellent,
comes.
smart here.
Sorry, Jackson.
No, up to you.
Morning comes, you make your way through the town to the what you can only describe as the estate of the Jarl here. It's like a walled off section of the town, which itself has walls. And explaining that you are looking to sell something to the Jarl and that you want to be presented or whatever, you'll be guided into this great hall with wealth untold compared to what you would have seen at home. Like you would have seen, the old Carl's Hall. You may have seen even the Jarl's Hall once or twice, but here there are tapestries hanging from the walls. There is gold and silver. There are fine weapons and a great many. You think upwards of 50 huskarls in mail in this building alone. Each one looking like a bright warlord compared to what you would have seen in the poverty of Osbloth and Iskolfin. And you're presented to the Jarl himself, who is tall and looks like a warrior. He's very physically fit. He's this long red hair and a red beard, and he has tattoos on his hands. He's looking at this scroll of vellum in front of him, and it looks like he's reading from it, though they're not runes. He looks up. Yes, I've been told to expect you. Yes?
Thank you, good Jarl. You honor me with your time.
Yes, well, I am quite busy. Your name?
Scum.
He smiles at that. Indeed. And what can I do for you, scum?
I can see you're a man of wealth. I've been told you have the means. My companions and I have a ship we wish to sell, make new lives for us here in these good lands. I hear you're a ring breaker. You have wealth. I wonder, with it, you would wish to purchase our Draka.
He leans forward. A Draco.
We took it from pirates north of Sjödefod. It has served us well. It is a wave breaker and a foe seeker. Its hull is corked with the blood of those who have stood against us since we sailed its deck.
Give away with your words, scum. You tell a fine tale.
Only keen ears as you hear the words have been spoken along my path. Blessed that the gods put great men in front of me to learn from.
Indeed. Well, I'll certainly take a look. I've been on the search, I suppose you could say, for a fine ship to call my own.
We are not hagglers or nigglers from Sjödefod, mind you. We'll accept a fair price and not bargain like crones in the marketplace with you, great Jarl. Do not wish to waste your time for a few bits more.
He nods approvingly at that. You get the impression that this man spends almost all of his time dealing with merchants and people who pinch pennies. He'll nod and he'll stand. He'll make a gesture and someone will come over with a fine sword that he belts at his waist. And 10 of these huskarls will stand and follow him. And you can walk through the town and you'll see people kind of politely waving or seem to be pretty well disposed to this man as he walks in his finery down to the dock to look at the ship. And he crosses his arms and looks it over. Big.
It is, though she cuts a fine form in the water despite her belly.
See, would you have the dragon head on it or off?
No, I would have taken it off before we went in, so they didn't think we were here to reave them.
Yep. He would ask to see the monster that goes in the prow.
I carved it myself, I'll say proudly, as I hold it aloft for him. I took it off as a means of respect to your Jarldom.
Good. Fine craftsmanship.
My stepfather was a woodsman.
Well, it's big. It's got space. Cuts a fine figure. I'm no sailor. He'll look over his shoulder at one of the men, this like grim-faced man with a white beard, one of the Huskarls. He'll look at him, and this man will just like do the tiniest nod imaginable, just like a barely even noticeable. And he'll say, all right. 1,000 hack silver.
$1,000?
Yeah.
My Jarl, 1,000 is a fine offer. But even the sailcloths, the caulking, and goods stored therein are worth that. And as soon as he says that, he'll flick his gaze from him to the man he consulted to gauge the reaction of his facial muscles to that, to see where I've to plumb where I've hit.
Yeah, you would see like this twitch in his eyes of like, this guy gets it. And he'll like walk up behind the Jarl, and the Jarl will look kind of embarrassed, like he gave that price not knowing what is normal to charge for a ship. He's obviously a man with like a lot of wealth, and he doesn't really know what's an appropriate price. And he'll nod. Let me know insult. I've not bought a ship before. I usually have my men deal with this kind of business. Gunnar here tells me that was a particularly low offer. He looks it up and down, unsure of what to say, and the man again. And he looks at him and goes, 10. He like nods.
I'll give an appraising look with my hands behind my back when I hear that.
He does this gesture and turns to talk to the man. And you can see the man like speaking in like clipped sort of grunts, explaining that like that is still a good price for a ship of this size and the quality that it is. And you can see the Jarl being like, for 10,000 hack silver, they could buy 100 men for that. Blah, blah, blah. Like arguing quietly before finally turning around. 10,000 hack silver.
If I don't see like a negative look from Wagner or Sigverker, if they're around, I'll spit in my hand and extend it toward him.
He thinks that's a crude gesture that Northerners do, but he understands that you're not from here, and that must be what they do up north. And so he too spits and like grips your hand in a firm shake. He'll hold it a little bit longer than is necessary, and like look at you in the eyes before nodding. Well, congratulations.
And to you, enjoy your fine acquisition. May she serve you as well as us.
I'll have my man deal with the particulars. He like nods forward, that white bearded man, who will like sit and talk with you about the exact and like how to deliver that wealth and of that scale, basically. He would say that there's land that he could offer in place of the 10,000 hack silver, but if it's the cash you want, he can provide that too. There's some sort of frontier settlements on the coast, but also inland, if you were inclined. Though it would, you would be living in Berchtesgade's son's lands.
Tell me of the other Jarls of this. Also, you go, Wagner.
Somewhere with our backs to the mountains, Wagner mutters. But you notice he's actually keeping his eye. He's basically keeping Hvizla in sight for as long as possible to see which direction they're going, because he has other business to attend to shortly.
The other Jarls, well, Berthgar here is Berthgar's son is one of the wealthier Jarls in this region. Elflet the Blind, somewhere beyond west. If you go far
I've heard
enough,
her name before.
they say that she's both cursed and blessed with blindness, that she sees things that cannot be seen.
At that, his interest is piqued.
Beyond that, if we go far enough in this direction, you'll come to Valley's son, the great Jarl of this region. And he'll say that with some respect, like the actual Valley's son. He'll then jokingly say, there are about 100 Valley's sons in Valleyland. Only one of them is the true son of Valley.
I'll thank the man for his law wise and won't be miserly with the cold cash, tin, hack silver, however he wants to deliver it. But I'll forego the offer of lands because it's too much attention and an anchor here.
Sure. So then he would get working on providing the actual hack silver. It's a lot of hack silver to carry. So probably I'm not sure, chests maybe, bags, because it's like a lot of weight to carry as well. But that can be sorted out over it'll take probably a day or two for that to get put together. And for the duration of your stay here, you're welcome to stay in the Jarl's longhouse, and he'll have quarters made up for you because of the enormity of the expense. So you'll live as guests of the Jarl here until the payment has been made in full. So anything else that you want to do here while you wait? Avisa, are you going to wait for the payment to be made to get some of that silver, or are you going to go? What's the idea?
I think Wisla might wait at least to see how much they'd gotten for it, and then speak with Arnvid about whether or not they wanted to wait around for a portion or to just take their chances with leaving now.
So Arnvid would say to you in private that he'll be able to find work with any Jarl. He's an experienced warrior and tactician, as well as advisor. He'll be able to swear allegiance to some back arse Jarl in the middle of nowhere here, and that you'll be cared for in that way.
She nods. She goes, my skills will be welcome here, I think.
They will.
Then we will go. We have no need for great wealth. We have each other. We have the children.
He nods. And he would be keen to leave as soon as possible. Like he had said yesterday, the longer that you spend all together, the longer there is a chance for someone to piece that together or remember it when someone comes asking, and he wants to get out as soon as possible.
Yeah, Wisla's been careful that after their first kind of hushed conversation not to really be seen hanging around with anyone in particular except Arnvid.
So will you say goodbye to the crew? Will you leave in the dead of night?
I don't think there would be any drawn out farewells. She'd already said goodbye to Sigverker. And so perhaps as they gather their things, she nods at Skam and at Wagner and at a few of the others. And then they're out the door.
Yeah, with the money you'd be able to, or Arnvid would be able to like buy a horse to carry whatever stuff you have, and like for the children to ride on so they don't get exhausted walking, and they would head inland.
Ragnar spits on the ground and makes a note of which direction they're going. He's going to get his cut and he's going to be moving.
Okay. So you await a day or two for the wealth to be counted and divided. And at the end of like the second day, probably, maybe the third day, they would provide the wealth to you. And Valley Land stands open, a great opportunity beyond for a place to forge your destiny. But we'll leave it there for tonight. And we'll see what happens next time. Thanks, guys. That was really fun. It was a very intense session. And we'll have to discuss what happens next because there's lots of characters that have vanished now, which is interesting. If you watched, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're interested in this setting, there's a Kickstarter going on at the moment. It's called Iscloft, which you'll find on there. We're at like 1,000% backed almost. It's insane. So if you want to get in on it, then check it out there. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.